A quiet street in old London lay covered in a thin veil of snow, and at its end stood the mysterious Ravenhurst Manor. From the outside, it looked like any other grand estate, but once inside, time itself seemed to slow. Heavy curtains framed tall windows, crystal chandeliers hung dimly lit, and the wooden floors creaked with the weight of history. Every corner whispered of memories long buried. At the center of the grand drawing room hung a large oil portrait. A young boy, fair-skinned, light brown hair neatly combed, dressed in a navy school sweater over a white shirt, stared directly at the viewer. His expression was calm, almost empty, yet an invisible sadness lingered in his eyes. Two people stood before the painting. Mr. Edward Graves, tall and impeccably dressed in a dark suit, and beside him Martha, the housemaid who had served the family for as long as anyone could remember, perhaps even longer. The silence in the room was broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock. Martha, wearing white gloves, gestured toward the portrait. "Sir, this is the boy your father often mentioned. He had this painted himself." Edward studied the painting. "Yes. But who is he? I never had a brother, Martha." She lowered her eyes. "Your father used to say some portraits aren't questions, sir. They're memories." Confusion crossed Edward's face. He had returned to London after many years, only to settle his late father's estate. But the moment he stepped inside, the air felt heavy, almost alive. The house seemed to breathe, as if the walls themselves held secrets. "This place never felt like home," he murmured. Martha sighed softly. "Some houses live with their owners, sir. Some keep their secrets long after they're gone." The camera closes in on the portrait. The angle of light shifts, and for a fleeting moment it looks as though moisture glimmers in the child's eyes. Edward steps back, startled. "Did you see that?" "See what, sir?" Martha asks quietly. His eyes, they moved. "I swear they did." She shakes her head. "Impossible, sir. Only the light playing tricks." Edward frowns. "Before he died, my father said something strange. His last words were, 'You are not alone, my son.' I never understood what he meant." Martha's hands tremble. When did he say that, sir?" "Just before he passed. He could barely breathe, but he kept repeating it." Her lips part as though to speak, but a soft knock interrupts. A servant enters with a tray of tea, places it down, and quietly leaves. Martha avoids Edward's gaze, her face pale with unease. "You know something, Martha," Edward says slowly. "Tell me the truth. Who is this boy?" Martha closes her eyes, as if dredging up memories buried deep in her soul. "Some truths, sir, are safer in silence." Edward's voice hardens. "I'm not a child anymore. If there's a secret in this house, I deserve to know it." Just then a gust of wind sweeps through the room. The curtains stir, and a small frame hanging beneath the portrait slips and crashes to the floor. Edward kneels, picks it up. It's an old black and white photograph. A woman holding that same boy, smiling faintly, the manor walls visible behind them. There's warmth in her face, gentle, loving, the kind of expression Edward never saw in his own mother. "Who is this woman?" he asks. Tears well in Martha's eyes. She was not your mother, sir." For a long moment silence fills the room. Only the faint hiss of steam rises from the untouched tea. Edward's voice cracks. "Then who was the woman who raised me?" Martha's reply is a whisper. "This story doesn't begin with these walls, sir. It begins with what lies beneath them." The camera slowly pulls back. The paintings along the walls seem to listen. The chandelier flickers, its glow fading until only shadows remain. Martha finally speaks again, her tone heavy with dread. "If you truly wish to know, you must go down to the cellar, the one your father forbade anyone to enter." Edward looks up sharply. "The cellar? I was told it was dangerous." "Not dangerous, sir," she murmurs, "just painful." Camera pans downward. At the far end of the hall, a candle flickers to life near an old wooden door, as though inviting them below. Edward takes a hesitant step forward. Behind him, Martha's expression freezes in fear, a fear that's been waiting years to surface. Fade to black. Somewhere in the distance, the faint laugh of a child echoes through the darkness. Night had deepened. Outside, the snow had stopped, but inside Ravenhurst Manor, the air felt colder than ever. Edward lifted a lantern and walked toward the place Martha had mentioned, the hidden passage beneath the floorboards. A faint metallic clink echoed as he found a small iron ring set into the wood. He pulled, and the trapdoor creaked open. The smell of dust, dampness, and time drifted up. Martha hesitated at the doorway. "Sir, before you go down there, remember, not every truth brings peace." Edward gave her a steady look. "I've lived without peace all my life, Martha. Now I need the truth." Camera follows him down the narrow staircase. Each step moans under his weight. Shadows dance across the stone walls, marked with faint scratches, as if someone once clawed from inside, desperate to escape. At the bottom was a small room, barely large enough for 2 people. A table, a broken chair, and in the corner a wooden chest sealed with rusted hinges. Edward placed the lantern down, brushed the dust away, and slowly turned the key that was still in its lock. The hinges groaned. Inside lay a stack of papers, some faded photographs, and a small blue wooden horse, its paint chipped and worn. He picked up one photograph. A man, a woman, and the same boy from the portrait stood together in front of the manor. On the back, a note written in his father's hand, "For my sons, Edward and Samuel." Edward froze. "My sons? That's me," he whispered the name again. "Samuel?" Behind him, Martha's trembling voice echoed down the stairs. "Yes, sir. You were not alone. You had a twin brother." The words seemed to shatter the silence. Edward turned to her, disbelief and sorrow mixing in his eyes. "This boy, Samuel, he was my brother?" Martha nodded, tears forming. "When you were born, there were 2 of you. But Samuel, he was different, weak, ill. Your father couldn't bear the thought of the world knowing. He said the family name must remain untarnished." Edward's voice broke. "So he hid him? Locked him away?" Martha's voice trembled. "Your father thought it was mercy, sir. He built this cellar for him. I was the only one allowed down here, to bring food, blankets, small toys." Samuel never complained. He would only ask one thing. "Every time I came." Edward's throat tightened. What did he ask? She looked up, her face pale in the flickering light. He would ask, "Where is Eddie? Why doesn't he come?" A single tear ran down Edward's cheek. His hand trembled as he touched the small blue horse. How long was he here?" "Years," Martha whispered, "until one winter, the snow was too heavy. I couldn't come down. When I finally did, he was gone, peaceful, as if asleep. I buried him here behind that wall. And your father, he ordered me never to speak of it again." Edward closed his eyes. The pain was too heavy to hold. The lantern's light flickered across the room, revealing faint carvings on the wall, childlike letters that spelled Eddie. Camera pans across the carvings, the soft crackle of the flame the only sound. Edward's voice shook. "And the portrait upstairs? Your father had it painted afterward," Martha said softly. "He couldn't bear his guilt. That was his penance. But he never called Samuel his son again." Edward whispered, and his last words, "You are not alone, my son." Martha lowered her gaze. "They were meant for Samuel, not for you. But when he looked at you, perhaps he saw both." The lantern flickered once more. Edward sank to his knees, his hand resting on the cold floor. "Samuel, you weren't forgotten. You never will be." Soft piano music swells. The camera slowly zooms in on Edward's face, tears falling silently as the shadows around him soften. He rises at last and walks back upstairs. Dawn light seeps through the curtains, painting the dusty room gold. Martha follows quietly. Edward stops before the portrait, gazing into the boy's eyes one last time. Then he picks up a small plaque and fixes it beneath the frame. It reads, "Samuel Graves, beloved brother." Martha sets a candle on the table below. For the first time, the house feels lighter, as if the very walls exhale. Camera pulls back. The morning sun floods the room. The boy in the portrait seems to smile faintly. Outside, the snow has stopped. A gentle wind stirs the flame of the candle. Then, from somewhere within the silence, a child's whisper drifts through the air,